From the beginning of the book of Shemot and on, Moshe's name appears at least once in every parsha. In our parsha of Tetzaveh, however, the Torah does not mention Moshe's name at all, even though it is hinted at or even inferred. Why should Moshe's name mysteriously disappear, and in particular from our parsha? The Dvar, in a shorter commentary on the Torah, explains that after the sin of the golden calf, Moshe entreated God to forgive Israel for their sin. Moshe further asserted that if God would not forgive Israel, then God should erase him from the Torah. Even though God forgave Israel and refused Moshe's offer to take him out of the Torah, Moshe's proclamation still put God in a dilemma, as a righteous person's word is not something to be taken lightly. The Torah further points out in his longer commentary that Tetzaveh is all about Aaron and his sons, whether in relation to their vestments or to their working and functioning in the Mishkan. Since Moshe had no real reason or need to be in this week's parsha, God took the opportunity to omit Moshe's name here. This enabled him to do two things. One, to symbolically fulfill Moshe's pronouncement to erase him from God's book, even though the conditions have not been met. And two, to protect Moshe from any shame or disappointment that he might have felt for not having been the one chosen to regularly function in the Mishkan. While this is a nice idea of the Torah and makes important points, this answer to the question doesn't quite seem right. For starters, there are a few other parshas in the Torah where Moshe's name also does not appear, in particular in the book of Dvarim. So Tetzaveh is not unique in this way. What's more, we say that God works measure for measure, meaning that the punishment should fit the crime. And even when God does punish, his punishments are not arbitrary, but are done with purpose in mind, and if possible, to help teach and uplift that person. So for what purpose would there be to remove Moshe's name from the Torah when he didn't do anything to warrant it? True, he offered it to God, as it would not have made sense for Moshe to remain in the Torah as Israel's leader when there is no Israel. But God did in fact forgive Israel, so there should be no repercussions to its leader Moshe, who had not even sinned. What's more, the Torah is even associated with Moshe's name, Torat Moshe, or the 5 books of Moses. This shows that Moshe was not disassociated at all from the Torah. What makes the question even more puzzling is that the division of the parshas is actually rabbinic in nature. If Moshe's name does not appear in this week's division, why blame God when it was the rabbis who divided up the parshas in this manner? So for what other reason, then, does Moshe's name not appear at all in Tetzaveh? When taking both Terumah and Tetzaveh together, we find something very interesting. True, Moshe's name is very briefly mentioned at the beginning of Terumah in relation to the fundraising, but that is it. For the rest of Terumah, which describes the various vessels of the Mishkan, his name is also suspiciously absent. This means that throughout the full description of the Mishkan, of its contents and its functions, Moshe's name is not mentioned at all. The question should then be, why does the Torah at least partially disassociate Moshe's name from the Mishkan? Perhaps if Moshe's name was too closely associated with the Mishkan, people might start thinking of it as the house that Moshe built. God's commandment was for the people to build the Mishkan, V'asu li mikdash, and not Moshe. Moshe's role was to fundraise and guide the people in its building. By distancing Moshe from the description of the Mishkan, it came to underscore that this house of God belonged to every one of the nation, rather than to just one person. Coming close to God is not dependent upon only one person, such as a charismatic leader, but is equally applicable and attainable by every single person. Shabbat Shalom.